welcome back to You, Me, and the Podcast. And I am joined here with
Jamie.
And do you want to tell us about yourself?
I am, well, should I tell you how I know you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't. Let's start there. I actually know you through Push, who I grew up with, and I think that he just thought that we would be a good fit, and so we're trying this out. But so far, our chemistry reads have gone really well. Our 10-minute FaceTimes have turned into 90-minute FaceTimes.
Yes, that bodes
if
well.
not like 2 hours, and I think we're going to do swell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jamie also has a podcast.
I am a realtor, and so I have a podcast called the Maddox Podcast. You can go to maddoxpodcast.com and see me on there, talk real estate and all things market and updates, and sometimes wine.
Sometimes a little bit, tidbit.
But yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the soft girl era.
Soft girl era.
And believe you me, I am currently in my soft girl era, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but it's just so nice. It's so nice to feel.
It's a different vibe, for sure.
Yeah. So the entire world, like, obligations are on your shoulders. It's nice to feel.
Well, there's something to be said about somebody who allows you to be in your soft girl era, because I think as just kind of strong women, if you're just kind of that type, that kind of independent women type, it's so easy to just be like, I handle things, I take care of everything, whatever it may be. And to finally like step into that soft girl era where you're like, I am now, it's not always about a partner, right? But just like, yeah, I sometimes do have feelings, and like I do want to be a little, I don't want to have to be on all the time. I don't want to always have to have this hard exterior. Like I do want to just kind of be a girl, quote unquote.
Yeah. Was it, okay, do you feel like it was hard for you to kind of fall into that? Because like there is like a sense of like letting go and like not having control.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that it's definitely a learned behavior for me. It's not something that comes naturally. And yeah, just kind of like letting go and not being in control of the time, or just trying to like be on all the time, it's harder than it might seem.
I feel like it's really hard, like when you're so conditioned to be like 110% all the time, to be like, okay, now I'm gonna relinquish control. Because like to me, I was never taught how to relinquish control.
No.
So I was like,
I've been labeled a control freak in my life, and it's just because there's so much that goes into it. But I always have had the attitude of like, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And so
Same.
that immediately is just how I attack everything. I mean, even stepping back to like school, right? Like when we were in school and we were doing projects, if I was doing a group project, I was always the type to be like, I'll do it and I'll put your name on it, because I want it done right and I want it done well.
yeah.
And so I've always carried that. I'm sure there's a lot of like trauma that has formed me to be that person and turned me into that. But it's just always kind of been that, and just handling everything, whether it comes to, I mean, I can't even like go out with a guy. This is something that I'm working on actively. I cannot go out without just trying to pay, and like not even just like offering to be kind, like being really having a hard time taking anything from anybody.
Yeah.
Because I'm always just like, no, I don't need anything from anybody. I can do it all myself. And so kind of allowing myself to realize that like you don't have to have it all figured out all the time. One of the best things recently that really like spoke to me was me and my cousin were having a conversation, and she's like, how come we can just show up for other people, mainly men, right? But like, how come we can show up for men without them having to ever ask us for anything, but we always have to tell them what we want?
The anticipation of needs that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's such
absolutely.
It's such a big thing. And just as like, you know, to be a strong, independent woman.
Yeah,
you know,
that
like
don't need no man.
That don't need no man. It's like, it's such a quality, but at the same time, it's like, it's so nice to be able to have somebody that just kind of allows you to be a woman. And you and I had talked about this, like previously touched on it, but like just the idea of, if you expect something from me, I'm not going to do it. But if you just kind of let me be and don't expect it from me, I'm more likely to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, you know, enter here, whether it be like, you know, cooking for you or something. I love to cook for people. That's how I show my love. If you're a friend and you're coming over, even my girlfriends, they come over, I'm always making dinner. I'm always doing whatever. As soon as a man expects it from me, I'm like,
oh, no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I'm like,
no.
I'm out. I can't do it.
It's not my
jam.
jam.
Like, to me, I feel like I'm like a pretty generous person, and I'm like, I'm giving. And so like, to me, it's like, as soon as you expect it, off. Nope.
Yeah.
I'm so turned off at that point where it's like, no, I no longer want to participate. But I absolutely agree with you, like the whole anticipation of needs. But I think that has a lot to do with like the things that we're taught, because like I always like we were talking about how like when you move out, you start to realize how many things have to happen in order for a household to run.
Yeah.
And I never really realized like the pivotal role that my mom played outside of like cooking and like cleaning and stuff, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, in order for this household to like exist and like move forward, like the things, the all the invisible labor that my mom did
Sure.
was insane. And now kind of kind of going into that era of like, I'm not saying that I'm a mom by any means, but I'm saying like in the sense of like I am growing into like being like more like her, which like when I was a teenager, I was like, I'm not gonna be anything like my mom.
Yeah, I'm still fighting it. I'm still fighting. I'm going down swinging. And the sad reality, not the sad, I love my mama, but I am my mother through and freaking through. I am my mom. And like, it's so hard because you grow up, you're like, I'm not going to be like that, and I'm going to be different, and I'm not going to blah, blah, blah. And then you grow up and you're like, I get it. I think you just kind of realize as you become an adult, they all tell you, right? One day you'll get it. One day you'll understand. Yeah. Just wait till you're older. And you're like, yeah, right. You can't tell me anything.
No.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. For me, like, I think like my mom is just like one of the strongest people I know. So it's like I now strive to be more like her because I'm like, bro, like, you know, but I definitely like I definitely was on the same page where I tried my best to be like, I'm not gonna be anything like you. When I grow up, I'm gonna be different.
Yeah.
And yeah, no.
And then here we are,
dude. Like even something as small as like, dude, when I was younger and my mom would like make me carry my purse or carry her purse, I would be so upset because like, I'm like, why does it feel like I'm carrying an elephant? Like, what do you have in here?
Yeah,
rocks?
Everything. But she was always prepared.
And now that is me. I have a freaking like boulder in my purse because I carry everything, right? Now it's even funny because like my car has everything. Like everybody always laughs. They're like, oh, if we get stuck in like a zombie apocalypse, we want to be with Jazz because like my car has everything.
Yeah, I'm that person too. I always feel like people are like, oh, I need this, I need that. And I just kind of Mary Poppins it and pull it out of my bag. Or I'm like, I've got that. Or if I don't have it, like I'll figure out how to make it. Or it's like, you know, out of what I do have. They call me MacGyver.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And so like to me, I'm like, I'm always prepared now. And I like I never realized that like that's what my mom, like she carried all those things. But also my mom had 4 kids. And so like she was a pro by the end. Like, you know.
I think that's a good point. I think that, you know, our parents' generation, the generation that we've learned from, they didn't really get to have that soft girl era. You know, Absolutely. They kind of had to be everything. They had to be the super mom. Like my mom raised 4 kids and she started, her youngest was born when she was, I think she was pregnant at 18, had him at 19 or she around 18, 19. And so she immediately had to grow up, right? Put a kid in my arms at 18. I could have done it, sure. But what
no.
would I have wanted to? No.
Yeah.
And so like that's already something that they didn't really have a choice. They just had to jump in and just do it and just figure it out. And so I think that like I learned from my mom, who was always kind of that fiercely independent. I mean, she had a spouse, but like just had to just be everything.
Yeah.
You know, there was very much that established kind of male female role in some aspect. I mean, my mom's always been independent. She's always done for herself, but kind of had those, you know, gender roles. And so I don't know, for me growing up, I always kind of like fought those gender norms, I think, and was always like, I don't want to be just a girl that like relies on him. I know that's terrible to say because you know, everybody has their own situations, but like, yeah, I didn't feel like I could be that. And then the older I get, the more I kind of live life and learn from it all. I'm like, there's something to be said about being somebody and choosing a partner that can just allow you to just kind of be you in every sense of the word.
Yeah. There was a TikTok that I was watching that the lady was like a fiercely independent woman is a result of so many men disappointing her. And I was like, it hurts to say, but I agree.
So there's actually, always known this about myself. And I used to say this as a kid and it was like, I don't even know why I had what I said it about. Probably something stupid. But it was like, if you never expect anything from anybody, you can't ever be disappointed.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that. And I've always just kind of grew up thinking that and like telling myself, just don't have expectations for people.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got this like, I don't care attitude, which at the end of the day, that's not who I really am. I do care. I probably care too much.
Yeah,
But like if I have that like I don't care attitude and it doesn't bother me, you can't hurt me. You kind of put up this exterior, this like rough exterior, and breaking that down and becoming that soft girl is way harder than it sounds.
Absolutely.
Way harder than it sounds.
Absolutely. Because it's again, like it goes back to like you're unlearning a lot of behaviors, and then you're also like also having to be like faced with like your trauma as well, right? Because it's not just like, oh, like, you know, you're now like trying to like, you know, break down this like fiercely independent exterior. It's not that. It's more so you're also having to like deal with like traumas or like things that you may have like disassociated from, or like, you know, something that you never really faced.
Yeah.
And now you're having to face it like head first, because it's like, okay, now like you're like it, like for me it's always like if this doesn't break me, then it's only going to make me better. But if it does break me, then at least I know I tried.
What doesn't break you builds you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that's one thing too, is kind of getting older, is that you just realize that you live and you learn. It's so cliche, but you just kind of live and you learn, and then you become self-aware. That's something I really work on right now, is just really deep diving into, why am I the way I am? Like, why do I operate the way I do? Why do I tick how I tick? And, you know, what traumas have caused that, and just what experiences have caused me to feel like I need to be the person I am today.
Yeah. I always say, like, full disclosure, that it kind of feels sad sometimes. Like, you know, not gonna lie to you, like, if I'm keeping it very transparent, is sometimes I wish I had a me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that goes back to the, like, I don't want to cut you off. Go.
No. That
goes back to the like, why can I do for other people and I don't have somebody that does that for me? So
Exactly.
I say this in a silly way. I always say, why am I always the friend that takes great pictures of everybody else, but I can't get one person to take a good picture of me?
Absolutely.
That's my pet peeve right there. Is like, I'll sit there, I'll take great pictures, then I ask you to take one picture, and you're like, I think it's good. Or they'll snap like one, and you're just like,
the qualms
why don't I
have?
Why don't I get the same courtesy that I get? Because I will go above and beyond. I'm high, I'm low, I'm getting this angle, I'm wide angling it.
I'm making sure
We're doing
everything
portrait
looks
mode.
good.
I'm waiting till those people pass. Like,
I'm making sure your hair's right, that like, you know, nothing's weird, stuck in your stomach. Like I am there, bro.
Yes.
I am there. And I think also a lot of that also goes with like being like a girl's girl as well. Is like, for me, like I feel like I'm even more of a girl's girl now than before, because I'm finally like, it's like and again, I watch a lot of TikToks, you guys. But like they were like I just feel like I'm in my divine feminine energy, and I was like, yes.
Okay, so let's.
That's what it feels like.
I'm going to touch on that and segue. Bring me back to my point, because you know I'll go off. But like that is something that I'm realizing as an adult. So I've never really been a girl's girl, and I say that not saying I've never had girlfriends or never like enjoyed womanhood, but I've never really been a girl's girl. I've always considered myself as having more of a male energy, a masculine energy. And I've realized that like kind of carries over into relationships and such, because I tend to find people who can't out masculine me. And like, that's not shade to anybody that I've ever dated or whatever. It works and it kind of has its thing. But if you want to be in your soft girl era, you kind of have to let go and relinquish that control and let people like be the man. I hate to say that, but like you kind of do.
To allow people to take care of you, I think.
I've always had, that's something I struggle with, is allowing people. I can take care of people and it's no question, and I will fight you on it. The second someone shows that care for me, I don't know what to do. I'm awkward.
Yeah,
I'm weird about it. And so like something I've been working on as an adult is trying to really feed into and nourish or nurture these female relationships and these female friendships, because I find that there is just so much power in being a woman that like-minded. I've always joked that like I'm always friends with girls who don't get along with girls. And it's kind of a weird thing, because I don't think that's necessarily true. But I think what I mean by it is I'm always kind of friends with girls who maybe have a more masculine energy. But like that is such a thing, is that I've always been one of the boys. Like I've always had an easier time being friends with boys and like getting along with the boys because I'm just kind of one of the boys. And so as I get older, I look around and I'm like, man, I have a few women relationships that I cherish, but I don't really know how to be a good girlfriend, or at least I don't feel like I do. I think if you ask people, they probably wouldn't say the same thing because you're always more critical of yourself.
Yeah, perception.
But I personally feel like I have a really hard time being friends with girls. And so like one thing I'm doing right now is I've been working out 3 days a week with a women's only class, a women's only trainer. And it's always like a variety of ages. There's usually someone in their 20s and their 30s, 40s, 50s, even up to their 60s. And it's just like this random group of women, and we all work out and just kind of talk about life while we work out and talk about our experiences. And I hate that it's taken me 31 years to realize this, but I'm like, damn, I need this.
Yeah.
Like, I love talking to other women and their experiences and just realizing what women go through and what they deal with and how awesome it is to be a woman.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I love, like, I don't know, like, even, like, meeting you and, like, seeing how similar and stuff we are. Like, to me, like, girlhood is just, like, so fun because it's, like, we get to talk about, like, walking into, like, your little, like, beauty room. I was like, oh, my God, this makes me so happy, right? Because it's about, like, the small, like, nuanced things, you know what I mean? Like, I stopped feeling like I was, like, alone when I started to meet more women that had like a similar life experience, because I was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Other people feel this way, right? Like, also, like, just being in the just like having more female friendships,
relatability. It's all about relatability, and especially as you get older and you kind of go through just life, you just realize how important it is to be understood by other females and everything you go through. And then just getting older too, you just realize that life is not black and white, man. There's just so much that goes on.
Our neighbor, like, we'll go to the dog park together and stuff, and we'll talk and whatever. Have you ever heard of like the term like a meta report? Right? So, like, basically, like, it's like this thing about, like, how women, like, basically, like, how, like, women, like, gossip, right? And they're like, oh, like, gossiping has, like, this own, like, like, connotation to it that's, like, negative, right? But it's, like, the meta report is more so, like, oh, we went out and, like, I saw this and this, that, like, the passage of information, right? And I realized that that's something that only women do, right? Because I'll talk to, like, my partner, or I'll talk to, like, my brothers, right? And they're like, oh, why do I care? Like, I don't care
Guys never have enough information.
Exactly,
it pisses
right?
me off.
Like, it's like, oh, like, we're going, like, on Saturday with so-and-so. And it's like, okay, well, where are we going? Who are we going with? Is their girlfriend going to be there? Like, like all
the
these
details that we would have. What
time, right? All these details, right? And I'm like, see, this is why I need to be the one that plans.
Literally, this just happened to me yesterday. I went to a lunch and I planned everything, made the reservation. We all text. Left it up to my brother to text the other guy in the group, the only other guy in the group, and tell him where we're meeting. And they text, but they never exchange the time. And so they knew we were going to lunch. They knew everything, but they never exchanged the time. And so we're at lunch, and I'm like, what time did you tell him? And he goes, I don't know. Let me check my messages. Never told him a time.
And he didn't ask?
And I'm like, so we call him, and we're like, hey, we've been here for a half an hour. And he goes, oh, yeah, I just assumed it would be around like noon. We're on our way. And we're like, you guys never, how does that work?
How
do you function?
I don't know. We went to like Jobin and Push, like they planned something, right? It was like me and his wife, and like they planned everything from A to Z. And it was just it was so, I was just like, did you talk to him about this? And he was like, oh, no, we're just going to meet up there. And I was like, do you know how much anxiety that gives me to not have details?
Dude, the worst thing is when a guy tries to tell you like a juicy story or something and you're ready and you're like, okay, and then what about this? And they're like, oh, I didn't ask. And they're like,
it's like, bro, come on.
And then what about this? And you're like, no, I didn't ask. And you're like, what did you actually talk about?
How did you get here?
The one piece of tea you have for me, what did you talk about?
Oh, no. Yeah. Like, that's something that me and my mom, like, we'll get into. Like, if we have something to tell each other, it's full.
Bro.
Like, she will have details. She will have backstory. She will have
if I'm
context.
telling a story, you're going to know their whole life story. You're going to know their whole life. Like, you're going to know everything. And then 35 minutes later, I might start the story.
But see, that's the thing. Like, the exchange of information is so, like, the way that it's set up with women. I feel like most of like my girlfriends are like, we all exchange information like that, right? If I'm talking to you about our neighbor down the street who like, you know, like had like something funny happen to him, I'm gonna be like, oh, my neighbor who lives down the street, oh, funny story about him, da, 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 da. And then I'll continue with whatever happened with my neighbor, right?
You got to know the backstory. I got to tell you more about this person.
Exactly, because I have to explain to you how kooky it is, right?
You got to understand. You need to set the scene. I want you to feel like you're there.
Exactly, right? And that's something that like I feel like is just a part of girlhood, because it's like, I don't like, like, again, I have 3 little brothers. They do not have the same, like, my brother, he'll tell me like, oh, he's like, oh, like, did you hear? And I'm like, oh, I was like, something good's coming up, right? And they'll be like, oh yeah, so and so said this, and then that, and then they said this back, and I'm like, okay, and then what was the resolution? And they're like, oh, I mean, they just
Not sure. That's as far as I got.
And I'm like, this isn't even juicy.
Like, that's not enough. You're like, no, I need more. I need the conclusion. I need the backstory. I need,
I'm like, now you've effectively wasted my time, because come on.
Yeah.
I need more information. No, I think that's something that's like, I don't know, like I believe like there are like fundamentals, and I
because my dogs are fighting in the bedroom. I'm telling you, they slept for 3 hours while we set up. 2 men, am I right? They're boys.
Am I right?
And then they want to wake up and just act a freaking fool.
Like they've never.
I should have Benadrylled
anywhere.
them. I'm just
Dude, literally, whenever I like take my dogs anywhere, or like my mom used to do this when she's like, act like you've been somewhere before, okay? Like when we're going somewhere, act like you've been somewhere before.
This episode needs to be you, me, and ADHD.
Oh, absolutely.
It's ADHD.
Hey, we were pretty on track up until until the dogs distracted us. So I feel like that's fair. What we were talking about the other day about like how it feels like you know, like again, like the anticipation of needs, because I feel like that's like a crux, because I've noticed like a lot of people, like even with like a lot of like the girlfriends that I've had, right, where they'll be like, oh, my husband or whatever is just so oblivious, and I'm like, I understand that now more so than ever, because it's like I don't know if it's that their brains don't work in the same way that our brains work.
They don't.
Or
men cannot. So my brother has this thing where he always says, you know, it's impossible to multitask. And I always say, yeah, for a man, because I don't really agree with it, honestly. I try to be like, yeah, I get it. You can't really think about 2 things at the same time and truly authentically think about only 2 things, or, you know, each thing at the same time. But I think that women can definitely multitask. You can keep tabs. It's like a computer, right? You can keep tabs open at the same time and bounce back and forth a lot easier than men can. Yeah. They cannot do 2 things at the same time.
You know, fun fact, women actually need more sleep than men on average.
Yeah, I believe it.
And I was like, I completely believe that. I was like,
dude, there's dudes that function on like 5 hours of sleep a night. I'm like, how? In
The
what
Rock
world?
does, I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, absolutely not. I was like, my brain is firing, all pistons go at all times.
My brain is nonstop. It is all over the place. I've got 75 thoughts at the same time. I've got so much going on. I couldn't.
You know how in like in iPhones where they have like the background refresh? That's exactly how my brain works. Because even like we were talking about efficiency with I did another episode and we were talking about efficiency, right? I was like, the way that my brain works, even when it comes to like doing chores, right?
Yeah.
Is that, okay, what is something that I don't have to do? Or what is something that I can start that can be that can be done while I'm doing other things, right? Yeah. So like to me, like you know, like dishes or like, you know, like laundry, stuff like that, whatever. That's how my brain works. That gets priority, right? And sometimes they'll be like, this just doesn't make sense. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It does make sense, because by the time that I'm done with whatever I'm doing, laundry's gonna be done.
Oh, I'm right, same exact way.
And then and then it goes by like, and then like there's also like distinctions between like there's this TikTok creator that I follow that I absolutely love, but she was like, there are 2 different types of chores. There are clean girl chores, and then there are dirty girl chores. And she was like, dirty girl chores are like anything that you're gonna get like dirty with, right? So like laundry, vacuuming, like all these things, right? And she was like, but then there are clean girl chores, because you don't want to be like all dirty and then like fold your laundry, right?
Sure.
And I was like, I was like, this makes sense, right? And like, you know what I realized is like, even when like I started like following creators like for cleaning and stuff, like when I started following creators who are women whose brains work like mine, I started to be like, oh, this makes sense. This is all I needed, right?
Yeah.
Because like my mom would always tell me, she was like, you're not like she was like, I just don't understand how you like organize like tasks or anything, right? She was like, you don't start tasks or you don't finish them. And that, I think that has like a lot of like attributes of like ADHD, right? But for me, like, it wasn't even starting the task, it was being efficient while doing the task.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think like, again, like it's so important to have like you said, that relatability factor, right? In every aspect of your life, right? Because you need to feel like you're not alone.
Yeah. And that's what I've learned with like just being friends with more women, is just how some of the things that I felt like, oh, nobody would understand this, nobody would get this. I mean, I've had some really serious big girl real life conversations with people as of the past few years, and just kind of like, you know, like we said, life's not black and white and it can be complicated, and you kind of feel at times like your complicated stuff just is unrelatable and nobody's going to get it, and can't talk to anybody. And then once you start talking to people, you kind of realize that like, wow, people live life too, and their life is very complex, especially women. There's just so much that goes on and so much that happens, and it's like, you're not alone. And then once I kind of started getting into that, I'm like, now I'm addicted to it. Now I want to be friends with only women, and like, now I love y'all and I want to hang out with y'all all the time and just talk about everything because you guys get it. And it feeling, have you heard of the 6 love language?
Yes.
So feeling seen, right? Feeling known, feeling understood, whatever you call it. That's my love language. Like gift giving, all that stuff. That's all great. That's all fun. Acts of service, all that stuff's great. But it's just feeling seen. You want someone who gets you, who understands you, who knows how you operate, who knows how you tick, and still loves you for it, and can just have some compassion and can just kind of, you know, give you some grace with that.
Yeah. There's a poem that it goes like, love is seen, love is kind, like all these things. But then it's like, love is being considered. And I think that's so true. At least for me it is.
No,
right?
absolutely.
Like to be considered is like,
it ties into the anticipation of needs, right? Somebody that can just know what you need, even when you don't fucking know it. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine.
Even when you don't know it, when you're just kind of like, I'm just feeling some type of way today, and I don't really know why, and I know this isn't going to last, and I know whatever, but I'm just feeling this type of way. And somebody who can just be there for you, and even just be there for you and say, hey, I know you're feeling some type of way. I'm just going to be here. Need me or not. Like, I understand. I get it. I'm going to allow you this space to be what you're feeling. There's just chef's kiss.
It's so beautiful. And I also think like 2 things. I think one, like, it's like to be considered, and like to have somebody be aware. And that's another thing. Like, I am constantly hyper aware.
Oh yeah.
Consistently hyper aware of like my surroundings, of whatever. Like, I am so hyper aware that it, like, my brain is exhausted at all times, right? And like, I feel like when you're like to me, like the fact that like even my brothers, like, they can like kind of like check out, and I can tell when they're checked out, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, it must be so nice, because like even when I'm out in public, like, I'm always like, okay, like, you know, scanning. It's like if I'm out, like, especially by myself or like with a bunch of girls, like just for safety reasons, right? You have to be aware.
You can't put me in a parking garage without me looking at where I could run to, where I could hide, what I could, like, situations like that. You're just always aware of your surroundings, aware of what you might have to do. That's a shitty feeling, but like, you have to do that.
And
you're
like
always on.
Even today, like when we dropped off the dogs, like there was only one entrance that was open to the back room, and I was like, no, she needs 2 entrances, because like if something were to happen. But that, to me, like, as soon as I said it out loud, I was like, it's not that serious, because I mean, they're in their backyard, but it's also like, you never know, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, like, I cleared a path for her. I was like, yo, like, you know, like, now you have 2 pathways, because like, you never know, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of being like aware, I think, is like, you know, another thing. And I think like that also like kind of like contributes, because like here's another thing is like I started to, like, once I started to realize and like understand like the menstruation cycle, I started to realize that like women on average only are themselves for like 2 weeks a month.
Yeah. It's bullshit.
Right? And I was like, that's such a shitty deal.
It's such bullshit. And do you ever go through this? We're just going to be bouncing around, but it's all like woman based today. Do you ever feel like, I don't want to blame this on my hormones, but I know it's probably my hormones, but I don't want that to be the excuse because my feelings are also valid?
Oh, absolutely. But then there are some times where I'm like a few weeks ago, I was just sobbing.
Yeah.
And like, he was like, oh, what's wrong? And I was like, I know nothing's wrong because nothing's wrong. Like, life's good. I'm editing the podcast. I'm doing all these things. Nothing is wrong. But I understand, like, I think I think as I've grown up, I've made a pretty good distinction of what is actually me and like my feelings.
Sure.
And what is like me just being hormonal, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely like, I'm way softer, I feel like, when I'm not on my period.
Yeah.
But I definitely get very snappy because also I think also like, again, it goes back into like things that I don't even think twice about. Like, for example, like, I'm so sorry to the men of the world. But like, like even something as small as like, if I'm doing something, it's like, oh, assist, right? Or whatever. Like, but again, that goes back into like awareness, right? But I just get so angry because I'm like, I'm trying to do something and you're not assisting me in doing something, And it's like I'm so much more liable during my period to say something about it than I am because I'm definitely a lot more patient when I'm not on my period. That's the
thing too, is it like, I feel like I always say, oh, I'm such a chill person, but it's a choice, right? Because I could be reactive, and that whole going back to anticipation and needs, and it's like, I can do that for somebody. You don't even have to tell me what to do. Whatever the situation, if we're setting up for something, I'm going to find something to do. I'm going to keep myself busy. I'm going to make myself useful. If you're talking to me and you're telling me something, I'm going to figure out how I can be there for you emotionally, what you need from me in that moment. And so having somebody do that for you, one, I don't know how to accept it. If somebody even tries to do that, I like put up this guard that goes to that like hard exterior thing that I probably still need to figure out. I mean, I'm working on it, but
but that's all it really is. Like, you're always a work in progress,
Oh yeah. That's the best thing I can say about myself, is that like, I will always say that I'm working on myself. I am never feel like I'm too good or like I've figured it out. I'm always working on myself. But the difference, I think, in this point in my life is that I've just learned to love the journey and to love the progress, mistakes and all.
Ups and downs,
Every mistake I make, I know it's a lesson. I've learned to fall in love with the process of just learning.
Yeah.
And every lesson is just like, yeah, okay, that could have gone differently in this, and assess it and figure it out and be better from it.
Yeah.
But I will never be done. I don't want to ever be done growing.
Yeah.
I always want to feel like I'm constantly being better. What's the whole like 1% better than you were yesterday rule?
Yeah.
Just any progress is progress.
Yeah. And I think also like something that I have definitely, I think, like kind of grown into is like the grace that comes with it, right? And I think that's also part of like the soft girl era of like the grace of like just accepting things that like, like things that are out of your control, or like even like things that you wish that it could have gone one way or another, and then they go a completely different way. And then you're like, but then being like knowing and like being graceful enough to just accept it and be like, okay, let's move forward. Like how it, whatever, like, and I don't know if that's just growing up or if that's more so the soft girl era. I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. I think you grow into your soft girl era.
Yeah,
at least
definitely.
And maybe not for everybody, right? But for anybody who hasn't had to go through this kind of like put your walls up, hard exterior, I'm whatever, good on you, because I don't think that's common. I think that we've all learned from our moms who have been trying to figure it out. I mean, let's give the men some credit here. Like, the men don't get enough space or haven't had enough space. I feel like maybe these generations are starting to get it, to kind of be themselves. Honestly, the soft man era is like a hard thing because you're expected to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And we're just, at the end of the day, we're just all kind of fucked up and figuring it out.
Yeah. And I also think that like with like, especially like the soft girl era for me, like to have relationships around you that facilitate that is so important, right? Like, I would not be here in my soft girl era if it wasn't for my partner, if it wasn't for my mom, if it wasn't for all the people around me that kind of help facilitate that, because it's really, it's in order for you to not carry the weight of the world,
Yeah.
somebody else has to, right? And whether somebody takes a little bit here and then a little bit there and a little bit there and whatever they do to help facilitate that. And I think that's where it kind of go. Like, I think like it, again, it's a village, right? It's a community. It's whatever, like, you know, and
that's an important point, is that it is a community. So I think so often we kind of feel like we're alone and we have to do it on our own, and that's the only way. As humans, we are not meant to be alone. We're
not at all. Yeah.
I mean, wolves travel in packs. Look at any animal. They're always together. Like, we are not meant to be alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I struggled with for so long, is that I never felt, I don't take this to be mean towards my family or anything, because I grew up with a great family and everybody's just human, right?
Yeah.
But like, I never really felt like I had anybody to help me with whatever problems I felt I had or whatever I was going through at the time. And I always just felt like I had to figure it out on my own. And kind of coming into that soft girl era where you realize I can rely on people. I do have friends that care about me.
Yeah.
Like, recently I went through a really, just a breakup, right? It wasn't like super traumatic or anything crazy. It was just kind of a unfortunate, you know, we're going in different places, but it was a breakup nonetheless, a pretty serious one. And just seeing how everybody kind of assembles around you. And when I'm really feeling at my lowest, and when I don't have that fight and I don't have that drive and that everything that I was, that like strength, seeing how everybody kind of comes around you, that's, I think, what started to transition me to realize I don't have to do everything by myself. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
as much as you feel like you are, you're not alone. And it is an active choice, right? You are who you surround yourself with. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of surrounding myself with the right people and trying to keep the right people in my life and not really giving too much energy to the wrong people. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But it's just a beautiful, like, realization to realize, like, even as an adult, I'm starting to get closer with some of my female cousins that I've grown up with, and we've always been cool because we're family. But have we ever really been like friends? Have we chosen actively to be friends because we really like each other? And so now some of my best friends, most of my best friends are family. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Not only are you family and it's cool that we, you know, see each other, whatever, but now we're choosing actively to be friends and be cool with each other and be supportive. Yeah. And like, it's just such a beautiful thing. Man, I'm really falling in love with like womanhood.
Yeah. I think like, I don't know, like I feel the same way, especially because like my family is like very male dominated. Like I have like 3 little brothers and I have 3 cousins. I only have 1 girl cousin on like my mom's side. Wow. Right. And she is like, we are vastly different, right? Oh yeah. But even then, like, how we've gotten closer has also been like such a beautiful thing, because it's like we can like, as kids, we had like obviously had like, you know, a certain type of like relationship and everything. Cause like when you're one of 2 girls, you kind of have to like, you know, make it work. But like, you know, after college and now like, you know, she's married and stuff, and the type of conversations that we have now, right, is just different. And it's nice. It's nice because it's like there's still a relatability factor. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like it just feels good. It feels good to have that and know that, and it's different. It's and it's something that like I think a lot of like I feel bad. I feel bad for like my brothers and stuff, because I don't think they'll ever get that. But I think also a lot of like women's like relationships are deeper, and like we connect like, you know, like in a deeper way than I think men do. Because like even like my little brothers, like they'll tell me about their friends, and I'm like, oh, so like how many siblings do they have? And they're like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, you best believe if I'm friends with a girl, I know her entire, like, her, like, oh, how old are her siblings? What's her relationship like with her mom, with her dad, etc. Like, I know all these details because we just connect on, like, such a deeper level.
Do you ever feel like so you've had these experiences, you've had this growth, you've kind of come into this thing, and obviously you want to spread that, right? You want to teach people, like, just, you know, it feels so good, whether it be, like, your brothers or whatever, like, just get closer with your friends and just establish these bonds. I kind of go through that with people where I'm like, I've found the secret sauce and like you don't understand. And I almost feel sometimes like people think that I'm just this crazy person that's like, okay, like you're just kind of gloating about how you've got these friendships. And I'm like, no, you guys don't understand because I didn't understand these things and I didn't have these friendships and I didn't have these relationships. And so to come into this and to just feel so loved and protected and seen by so many different people, it's like I just want that for everybody now.
Yeah,
I want everybody to go through this soft girl era. I want even like the guys, like I just want you to all feel this love and support that I've felt, because it's so, once you have it, you're just like, man, this is incredible that people actually care about me. I'm very big right now on this whole, like, my whole life purpose right now is to just put out good energy, to just continue to be authentic in everything I do and put out the most authentic energy and hope that it comes back to me and that I can receive that same type of energy back. And honestly, so far it's working. Yeah. Like I feel like the more authentically good energy I put out there and just try to create these relationships with people and just try to be understanding of people's human experiences, because I think the human experience is just so beautiful, good, bad, and ugly. I think it's beautiful to learn and to live and learn. Like my biggest goal is to learn all these lessons and try to pass them down, even though you can't really do that. You kind of have to learn for yourself. Yeah. People have told me things and you don't really get it until you experience it for yourself. Yeah. And you kind of have to go through the shitty times in order to like grow from them and learn. Yeah. But like my goal is to just kind of experience as much of life as I can and then pass it down to my niece or, you know, my cousins or whatever it may be. Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. Something that like kind of really like, I think like just deepened my appreciation for everything was, do you watch any sort of like Bollywood at all?
Not since I've been hanging out at Push's house.
So basically there's this new like Bollywood series that's called Hira Mandi, and it's basically about like courtesans in like pre-partition India, and it's basically about how like what role they played in like the road to freedom for India, and like you get to just see like, you know, all like it shows womanhood in like as like a teenager, because like you know, like one of the girls, like she's really naive and like it goes through, I feel like, all the different stages of being a woman, and it was just like so beautiful and powerful, and it just like it made me feel so good, because I was just like, and I think again, like, have you ever heard the quote where it's like, if you give a woman a house, she'll give you a home, right? Like that whole thing. And I'm very heavy on that energy right now, because I do believe that we have the ability to create life. Yeah. Right? You can't tell me that we aren't like
special, man.
Well, but like powerful. Yeah. Right? Like we are, like we're like the ability to grow like you know, fingers to all these things. It's, to me, it's fascinating as a woman, right? And especially like all the things that we go through, right? But I think like, again, like it goes back to like there's just so much power, and if you find your village or your community that is able to like really like hoist you up so that you can harness that power, you're basically unbeatable.
It's true. Well, they say behind every strong man is like a stronger woman, right? Yeah. Like half of the strong men out there and everything that we think they are, what would they be without the strong women that are supporting them? Be it their mother, their spouse, their sisters, or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Like we give people that platform, and other women too, to just be who you need to be and just have all that love and support behind you.
Yeah, I so like, it's just always like, and especially because like I think also being the eldest woman, especially like in a family that, like, you know, my parents are immigrants, right? Yeah. And so they grew up like, especially like my especially like my mom's family, they grew up in like a patriarchal society, right? Yeah. And so to be an eldest brown daughter, I always knew that, like, you know, like heavy is the head. And so to me, I always kind of like, that was always like my thing, right? And like I kind of like, that was like my chip, that was the chip on my shoulder, for the longest time, because I was just like, this is just my reality, right? And then I realized, I was like, well, yes, I am, like, you know, like Punjabi, I am Indian, all these things, but I'm also American, right? And in America, there really isn't like that much difference in between like, you know, a man and a woman, right?
Yeah.
There's still pay gap and all these things, right? But for the most part, comparing it to like India and like Indian values, it's like it's very different, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so to me, I was like, the cool thing about this is that I can like my identity has a duality to it.
Yeah.
Right. And so because it has this duality, I can harness that. I can take that, and I can pick and choose what I like, right? And to me, like, not having gender roles is probably the way to go, right? There's a TikTok like trend that was like, oh, I had a DIY dad, so I need to marry a DIY husband.
And it's like, no, be that DIY.
And then there was a girl that stitched it that was like, girl, my dad was a DIY dad, so I am a DIY.
Hey, I'm a product of that.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's so true. Like, you know, again, like even as like, you know, like again, it goes back to like, you know, we're not hating on all men, right?
No, we're not hating on men, but I could not imagine being with a man that could.
But yeah, it feels so nice to finally be taken care of and like to be thought of. And again, like it's always like a work in progress. But like, again, like my brother always says, he's like, what am I supposed to do? Like read her mind? Like when he's talking about his girl, I was like,
Yeah, because we do it for you.
I was like, but it's not even, I was telling him, I was like, it's not even reading her mind so much as it's listening, actively listening.
Yeah.
I was like, that's all it really is. I was like, if you're actively listening, she'll tell you exactly what she needs.
Yeah.
Right? Like one of my...
That's the thing is I could say it black and white and they still don't get it.
Exactly,
Sometimes,
right?
yeah.
And it's like, come on. No, but like one of my really good friends, like she was like she and I are both on the same page. She's like it's so cool being one of her friends because like she's just like me. Mm-hmm. And like she'll listen and then she'll buy you exactly like, you know, like for Christmas she bought so many things that I didn't even remember mentioning to her.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, I am so like I love that energy.
Yeah.
Because it's like you listened. Not only did you listen, you took a note of it. And then you moved forward. And then you were like, oh, like, you know, come time for birthday, whatever.
Showing someone that you care just in general. Like, I hate to bash on guys, right? But like a holiday will come up and they'll be like, oh, let me get them jewelry. Let me get them flowers, whatever. But to listen to me and know what type of flower I like. Know that I personally don't really want jewelry. Like I have my certain staples that I wear. Yeah. That's the shit that matters. It's like, don't just do what you think needs to be done. Do what you think that would matter to me.
There was a TikTok that I saw, like this was like a couple years ago, and they were like, oh, my husband bought me like this silver necklace, and I don't know how to feel about it, right?
And I don't wear
like,
silver.
And she was getting torn apart in the comments, right? Yeah. And she was like, no, you guys don't understand. I'm allergic to most metals, and all I wear is gold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's not a fact of I'm unappreciative. There's a big difference. It's not that I don't appreciate that. It's a thought that counts. Yeah, but sometimes a thought can be a little bit more thoughtful. Think about me. Don't just think about getting me something to get
exactly,
it for me.
Right?
Yeah.
And so she was like, it's not the fact that I don't like the gift or whatever. It's the fact that you only noticed that I wear jewelry. You didn't notice anything beyond that.
Yeah.
Right? And again, like I think the devil is in the details. Like all these things, like they matter, right? Yeah. And that's why I always tell my brothers, I'm like, yo, like the details are what matter the most. I was like, the big things, like, you know, like whatever. Like usually, like even if you don't agree on the big things, you can find a way to like agree to disagree, right?
Yeah.
But the small things, the fleeting moment that you might think that, like, you know, like she doesn't even realize that like she said something to you. If you remember those moments, I promise you that your relationship is going to be as like more successful than any other relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's so simple. Like here's the thing. Like I always say this, like women will tell you exactly how they want to be loved.
Yep.
Right? And I was like, it's clear as day. Like they'll tell you exactly what I need, X, Y, and Z from you, right? I was like the whole the whole like thought process of like, oh, like women are complex. I was like, that is not true. Mm-hmm. That is a man-made concept. Mm-hmm. I was like women are simple as long as you listen. I was like if you're not actively listening, that's a completely different. Like, nobody can help you out with that, right? But we're not hard. It's just listening, right? And again, mm-hmm. like it goes back to what you said. If I can do this, and that's something I'm super heavy on, is like I'm not asking for anything that I wouldn't be able to provide, right? Like if I'm able to provide you with like anticipating your needs and actively listening and all these things and like, like knowing that you might need something, right? Like it's not even like, you might need it, right? And like being prepared from like plan A to Z.
Yeah.
It's like I'm willing to provide that. Are you? I'm not asking for something that I wouldn't be comfortable providing.
A lot of times guys can actively or not anticipate your needs, but can provide for what you need when you tell them. But like how many times do we as women think, oh, I noticed he was running out of deodorant and I'm at the store this time and I'm going to pick some up. Or I noticed that, we're running low on whatever it may be. And I know he likes a certain type of brand or whatever. And like, it's those little things that just go a long way. And it's really not that hard to do. Yeah. It's just being an active listener and paying attention.
Even with like, and this is like not even men, this is just in general, like, if I'm hosting like an event or everything and you ask me what can I do to help,
my biggest fucking pet peeve, girl.
I hate it.
What can you do? Get out of my way, because by the time I tell you, I could have did it.
Because why do I have to tell you?
Yes.
You have eyes.
I have certain friends. I will shout out Pablo right here now. He's one of my friends, and like I have a few of them. I can't really name any other ones, but like some of them, where they come over and it's like, don't ask me what I need from you because I'm already in my go mode. I'm doing it. I'd rather just do it, but they can just pick up and just start helping me, and it's truly helpful rather than people that are like, I did this, I did that, and I'm like, you just made more work for me.
My favorite type of people is like not asking, oh, what can I do? Okay, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
That is my favorite type of person.
What can I do? Not make me tell you what you have to
do.
That's what it is.
It's like you can ask me, what are you doing? Yeah. So I'm not like, doing the same thing.
Yep.
But are you going to be self-started enough to start on whatever task?
Yeah.
Because like, dude, two of my cousins got married within a span of like 6 months, right? And Indian weddings are massive, right? And it was like I remember like the last event that they had, like, my my cousin was basically like coming back to like her like childhood home, right? And my my brothers are like looking for direction, and I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like what do you mean? Come on. I was like, do, and then there are certain things where they're like, okay, where do you want me to put this, right? Like that's completely different, right?
Yeah.
Like my cousin was like, okay, how do you want me to like arrange it? Do you want like, whatever, right? That's different, right?
Sure.
But if you're asking me, give me a task, I'm not your manager.
Yeah.
I'm not your supervisor.
Like my biggest thing, I always say I should get this tattooed, and like figure it out. Figure it out. Why can I figure it out? And
you
can't,
have
like, figure
eyes.
It out. Yeah.
You have eyes. You can, I believe in you. I believe in you so hard,
Yeah.
And like again, like there's there's so many like different things like that where like but that is like one of my biggest pet peeves.
Oh yeah. You're speaking of preaching to the choir over here.
I want to do an episode on like pet peeves, and that is one of my
girl, don't get me started.
Biggest pet peeves. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, because it's like, bro, and it goes back to like the invisible labor aspect, right?
Yeah.
Like, we do so much invisible labor that like no one's gonna applaud you for making a list, right? Yeah. But it's still expected of you, right? No one's gonna notice that, oh, like Jamie made a list of all the things that you need to do, right? But you did. You took time. You thought about it.
Mental energy is energy, and this is probably another whole episode, but like one of my biggest pet peeves is when people think that mental, I guess energy is the best way to describe it, is not the same as physical output. And it is. It's like a mentally taxing job or task can be just the same as a physically taxing one.
Absolutely.
So just because you might not see me sweating and doing the same physically doesn't mean I'm not doing the same thing.
Yeah, just because I'm not raising hay bales doesn't mean
it's so true.
Yeah. My brain is just, again, firing at all pistons go.
You're exhausted at the end of the day, so am I mentally.
Exactly, right? And at the end of the day, we're both gonna hit the bed, and we're both gonna fall asleep within within seconds. I'm like, again, like, it's so validating to have somebody else who feels the same way. Like again, girlhood,
womanhood. Here we go.
because it's
we're all in this together.
exactly like it's so hard to find somebody that is also like that, because like whenever I try to talk to like my mom about all these things, she's just like, oh, like, you know, like that's just I don't do it for like the praise. And I'm like, I do.
Yeah.
I do for not even for the praise, for the recognition, right? Of like, oh, like, you know, Jazz did that or whatever, right? And that's not saying that I'm like seeking validation. It's more so
It's just appreciation. It's nice to be appreciated.
right? Like, it's just like, hey, like, you know, throw a thanks my way.
It's
And
nice
I'm like,
to be
oh my God.
appreciated for what you do.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, just because it maybe doesn't look the same as what you're doing doesn't mean doesn't, you know, take the same toll on us.
And I think another thing is like not making it look like work. Because like that's something also for me is like I'll do all these things, but it won't look like I'm doing work, right? Because I'm so good at juggling all these tasks.
Yes, I agree with that.
And so because of that, everyone's just kind of like, oh, she got it. And I'm like, I'm up to my eyeballs.
So I was just telling my client recently. So my client is purchasing a home. She literally showed up she canceled her showing and she showed up with a 4-day-old baby. And she was like, sorry, I couldn't make it to the showing. I was in the hospital giving birth. And I'm like, you're here with a 4-day-old baby. Insane already. And so every time I talk to her since then, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just tired. And I'm like, you just gave birth. She's still working. She's still in the process of buying a house, having to provide all these things, answer all these questions, be on all the time.
You're literally 4 days postpartum.
And I told her, I said, just because you can be Superwoman doesn't mean you have to be.
Absolutely.
Learn to take time for yourself. That's okay. You don't have to just be going above and beyond all the time. Like, learn to take time for yourself. Learn that you can take a rest, and that's still acceptable. That's okay.
Yeah. And that's another thing is like, for me, I try to taper myself when I'm like, oh, sorry for this, sorry for that, right? And it's like, instead of saying, oh, sorry, I'm late or whatever, it's like, thank you for waiting.
Thank you for waiting. Biggest
right?
thing I say, yeah.
Like, I try to be like, you know, and like also like, sometimes like people bump into me and I'll say I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize for everything. You're in my way, and I'm like, sorry. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, what the fuck did I say? Sorry.
So I'm trying to audit myself. That's another thing that I'm like trying to do. Again, like it might not feel like a super big deal to anybody else, but it feels like a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm allowed to take up space.
Sure.
I'm allowed, right? I'm allowed to exist. I'm allowed to like, you know, like have feelings and need to be taken care of, right? Yeah. And so like that's something else that I'm like really, really heavily working on.
You just said something that I've struggled with my whole life is like, I'm so good at taking care of people, but I don't know how to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
The second somebody tries something for me, and like, you know, a silly example is when I go out and people try to pay for things, pay for dinner or pay for my drinks or whatever. And I'm just like, no.
It's like, I got
it. Because I'm so
yeah.
independent and I'm so whatever. And I don't want to expect anything of anybody. And it's just like, it's fine. Because how many times have I gone out and been like, oh, I got you. Oh, I got this.
Yeah.
Like my treat.
Yeah.
And nobody fights me.
Yeah. But we also like, I feel like we also overthink it, because it's like, I always say like, oh, I don't want to be a burden on anybody. Right. But then like, when I'm like doing that for somebody, I never think of them as a burden.
Ever.
Right? And so it's like, even our own mind can be sometimes our like, not enemy, but like,
it's true. Sometimes we get in our own way.
Right. And it's like, why do I feel like they would think that I'm a burden?
Yeah.
But you don't think that they're a burden if you're paying for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it goes back to what you were saying, a work in progress, right? And I think that again, that's the biggest thing. Is like, it's all a journey, you know?
It's all a journey.
So
we're always here to grow. We're never fully grown.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think we're always working on ourselves. And I never want to stop that.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to feel like I have it all figured out, because I don't think you do.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever have it all figured out. I think you're always just continuously figuring out life. There's just something so beautiful about being here, being on earth, being a human, having the human experience, and relating to other humans and understanding that everybody's going through it. Everybody's figuring it out. Nobody really knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And I think it also goes back to like the whole like the whole thing of like, you know, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
I truly believe that, because it's
I
like,
stand firmly in that.
if you're like, you know, if you're surrounded by people like that's why I'm always like very heavy on like, you know, being friends with people who are in positions that I want to be in, because it's like, you know, that's where I want to be one day.
Yeah.
You know, and even if I don't make it there right now, it's like, I will be learning something to get there.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, all of that to say, we are currently in our soft girl era and we're enjoying it thoroughly.
Yes.
I don't know about anybody else, but
if you want to come take care of me, I'm ready to be taken care of.
Jamie is ready to be taken care of.
Ready to be taken care of. I'm tired of doing all the work, man.
Seriously.
I'd rather be alone than
unless you're gonna ask Jamie what can I do?
What can I do for you?
Then stay away.
How can I serve you? Let me count the ways.
This isn't customer service. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I'm over it, man.
But if you made it to the end of this kooky little episode, let us know what you guys think. Are you in your soft girl era? Are you getting there? Do you have somebody supporting?
And do you want to see me back?
Yeah. do we want to get Jamie back? I believe so. I think
our energy is good. This is like our third conversation, kind of.
Yeah.
Like real conversation. And I feel like we're pretty.
Again, this feels like it's only been like 20-30 minutes, but I'm sure it's been a lot longer.
I think we're probably over an hour.
Probably.
Killing
so
it.
Like I said, do the YouTube things. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. How can they find you?
You can find me on pretty much all platforms. It's Jamie1105, but it's Jamie with 3 E's. So it's JAMIEEE 1105, which is my birthday. On Instagram, you can find me. Maybe don't find me on YouTube, but I don't know what's on that channel. But Instagram, TikTok, whatever. You can find me at It's Jamie.
And then the Maddox podcast.
And then follow my real estate podcast if you want to hear me talk real estate, talk market, talk all of the good things at maddoxpodcast.com. You can find us on Instagram at Maddox Podcast or Maddox Real Estate.
And yeah, we will see you in an episode super, super soon. Bye.